What's up guys, Joey here, Tech, and today we're gonna be doing a little experiment. As you saw in the title, which gadget is the dirtiest? Now this was inspired by an experiment we saw online from CS Mott's Children's Hospital. Basically what they did was they got slices of bread, they rubbed it on a student's dirty hands, they rubbed it on the hands of a student who washed with soap and water, they rubbed it on the hands of a student who washed with hand sanitizer, and the last piece of bread, they rubbed it on one of the students' Chromebooks, because in schools nowadays they use Chromebooks. Anyway, obviously in the end of the experiment, the clean piece of bread stayed almost unadulterated, untouched, no bacteria, whereas the one that was rubbed on the Chromebooks was completely filled with bacteria and molds. And interestingly, hand sanitizer turned out having more molds than the one with the washing your hands with soap and water. Anyway, we want to expand on the idea of rubbing the piece of bread on the students' Chromebooks by rubbing pieces of bread on different types of gadgets to see which one is the dirtiest. So just the same as the original experiment, we're going to be taking one piece of bread as our control, untouched. It goes straight from the packaging to our Ziploc bag. The other pieces of bread we're going to be rubbing on a laptop, a camera, a smartphone, a TV remote, a power bank, and a pair of earphones. So to help me with this experiment, I've enlisted the help of my colleague, Ali. So, we are going to be putting on some latex gloves to make sure, to make sure that we don't contaminate the pieces of bread as much as possible. Alright, so this one here is our control. Straight from the bag into the other bag. Okay, seal it up. Now that is our control. Next piece of bread, I'm gonna be rubbing it on Ali's smartphone over here. This is the iPhone XR. Get even coverage. Gotta get. It's just crumbs, it'll wash off. Alright. Bread. On the smartphone. Next up, we're gonna go for. I have a feeling this one's gonna be the dirtiest. I don't know, but this TV remote, a lot of people touch this every day. This goes in between the couch cushions. This gets food and drinks spilled on this as we watch Netflix and such content. There we go. There we go, that's the remote. Next up, let's do the laptop. Now this is yours, right? Yeah. This is Ariel's MacBook. Now I'm not sure about if we did, but I don't have a good feeling about this. If we had a black light on this, we'd probably get some white stains all over.
Did it feel so?
This is a technique we call in the industry yeasty cleaning. I'm gonna try not to break up the bread. Para konti lang crumbs dito sa keyboard mo. It's okay, that'll just blow off. Alright, that's the laptop. Alright, next up let's do the camera. So this Canon 80D, we mainly use this for the product shots seen on our website, so a lot of people use this on a daily basis. Let's get even coverage here from the lens, especially here, this part with the grip. Yeah, a lot of people touch that. Ooh. Give it a yeasty bath.
Get that bread.
Get that bread. Alright, next up we have the power bank. It might be more efficient to do this. There we go. And lastly, earphones. Aurel just used these about 5 minutes ago. So we gotta make sure we get the ear tips. Just the tips. Ew. Find the earwax. And aside from the fact that these were worn, it's likely that your earphones are not just worn by one person. But you could share your earphones, you could listen with a friend. Here in the office, we tend to borrow earphones also, especially when we're editing on the PCs. There's that, that's the earphones. I haven't washed my hands since I ate, so one more. Alright, so we have all of our pieces of bread here on the corkboard. We're gonna transfer this outside. See you in a bit. Alright, so we've transferred our corkboard here to the entrance/hallway part of our studio, so every day we can just walk in the door and check the progress of our pieces of bread. So we're gonna check back on the progress of our pieces of bread in 1 month to see which device has the most bacteria and mold. And then the quarantine happened. We got locked out of the studio. But luckily, last April 5, Boss Abe was able to briefly go back and check on our pieces of bread. So, with that, here are the results of our month-long experiment. The control bread did not have any signs of mold growth in it. The bread was definitely dried up and became brittle over time though. The bread exposed with earphones did not have any noticeable growth of molds, so maybe the test unit was either new or recently cleaned. Moving on to the laptop bread, it did not have any noticeable mold growth as well, so again, the laptop might have been recently cleaned. Next up, the bread exposed to the camera had 100% coverage in terms of mold growth. It's mostly composed of black molds with several spots of fuzzy or cottony white molds called penicillium molds. Now, the bread wiped on the power bank had about 60% coverage of mold growth, mostly black molds that extend from one corner into the center in a ring-like pattern. Now, the bread wiped on the smartphone had 100% coverage in terms of mold growth, primarily greenish-yellow color with patches of black and a few large clusters of fuzzy white molds in them. There's an obvious vacuum effect in the Ziploc, which means that the molds consume whatever air was left inside. And as expected, the bread wiped with my dirty hands had 100% coverage of mold growth, primarily rusty red and black molds. There's a small patch of white molds in the center as well. The bread exposed to the TV remote had 100% coverage also of mold growth, with one side having black molds and the other side having white molds. Like the one wiped with dirty hands, the Ziploc had a vacuum effect, so the molds consumed whatever air was left inside the Ziploc. With these results, we get a few conclusions here. You get different molds from different gadgets. The exposure load varies per device. The higher the load, then the higher the mold growth. And if you guys decide to do this experiment at home, or for us for that matter, we might have to redo the laptop and the earphone results because they're inconclusive. We know laptops and earphones can be dirty, but our results here yielded pretty much nothing. And another interesting thing, the TV remote and the smartphone have a similar mold profile, same with the camera and dirty hands, they have a similar mold profile as well. But all in all, despite the anomalies, specifically the laptop and the earphones, I think it is pretty conclusive that 1. Our gadgets are a lot dirtier than we think, and number 2, washing your hands is extremely important. So in times like this, when the world is going through a pandemic, I hope this experiment can serve as a reminder that we always wash our hands as much as we can and keep our gadgets sanitized. In fact, we already made a guide on precisely that topic, so if you haven't seen that video yet, click the link right here. So I hope this experiment was eye-opening for you guys, and if it was, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell icon so you don't miss your uploads, and be sure to visit ukatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. This has been Joey, and guys, stay safe, stay home, and stay hydrated.